Hi, it's Nancy again, and I wanted to tell you that, of course, yesterday I worked like crazy out here and just didn't really make a dent in it even. But I'm thinking, well, we probably have the rest of this month. Today is October the 10th, I figured we'd probably have all of this month and maybe a couple of weeks of November before the frost came. But now we actually have frost in the forecast for Sunday. So, and that's probably maybe it's like 35 to maybe 32. So if we get our first frost, which I'm hoping we don't, but if we do, a lot of this will all be gone. And I knew I needed to get busy. I got a few caladiums and bulbs in yesterday, but I've got to do a lot more than that. Plus I've got to get my my house plants inside for the winter, so it's going to be a busy time. I'm a little bit sad that it's going to happen so soon. I was hoping for some time. It seems like here in Oklahoma it's either too hot to be out in the garden, or too cool to be out in the garden, or it's already frozen and gone. But hopefully, if we do, lots of times in Oklahoma too, we get a early frost, and then if you can save it, if you can cover it and save it some way, you'll get maybe a couple more weeks or more of pretty weather to just really enjoy the garden, which is one thing I'm wanting and actually needing to do, because you don't want to put work in all the time and not have any time to just sit and enjoy. And I'd like to read a book, look at a magazine, do something just comforting and relaxing in the garden. So these are some things that I did yesterday. This little bird is Benjamin. My great nephew painted that for me. And then in the little pot I put some coleus clippings and impatiens, the orange copper coleus plant and the red orange impatiens, and I was hoping that these would get a chance to root in and really shine before frost came. And then also I didn't bring any of my house plants in yet, so this is a ponytail plant, and I'll need to bring that in. Right beside it there is a rubber plant that I'll need to bring in. There's actually several things. Some of them are kind of hidden under the foliage of other things, but you can tell. Look at this black sweet potato vine, how it's kind of laying down. It was cool this morning, so it's going to begin to be cool. And I know that my houseplants need to be brought in. This little plant right here is an air fern, and I need to get that in, because I was hoping to get to keep it out here for a while and just enjoy it for a while longer. But you know, it's always so hard to let the garden go. But then afterward, honestly, I have found that I'm glad, because I need that rest period. The garden needs a rest period, and so do I. But it's just like yesterday, I cleared all this out so that you can see the little decor that used to be hidden by all the foliage. And the reason I did that basically was because I knew it would soon be gone anyway. It's hard to clear it out when it's just billowing with beautiful bright impatient blooms. But it was nice to get it cleared out too. We can see some of the little garden art that's in there. And I always enjoy all of this stuff as well. But you know, in the spring, of course, when things are tiny, this stuff is easily seen, and it's really excuse me, it's really needed more then, because you don't have all this other stuff. You need some for interest while the rest of it is growing. This is another pot that I filled in with clippings, and there was a few of that were a few of those plants already in there, but I did fill it in with some more clippings, and hopefully we'll still get a chance to enjoy those a while before frost takes them totally all away. And this little girl was totally hidden by impatiens, just covered her completely. But I was hoping all these impatiens would flower back up again, and they may still. I'm going to hold out for hope. I always do that, you know. But in my mind's eye, I really did think I had some time to really enjoy these things, and now I'm realizing not really. I need to get those houseplants in for certain, and then maybe some of the other things too. I went down this morning and got a pot, and actually kind of hard to find a pot this morning because everything, Christmas is coming up. Everything in the stores are Christmassy. Not that I'm complaining about that. If you can't beat them, join them. And I'm really thinking they got the right idea to go ahead and start Christmas early, because it's just such a fantastic season and so much to do and enjoy that I love starting it sooner. As a matter of fact, it won't be long before I put my tree up. We always have our Thanksgiving with one of my sisters and a big family reunion in her house, and so I can put my tree up just as soon as I'm ready, and I'll be ready when I get the house plants and all the plants taken care of. That'll be my next goal. This is what I went down looking for a pot for, is this little plant right here. My sister wanted one of these, and so there's two of them in there, and I'm just going to divide that and give her one and keep one. And I can guarantee you in a year or two, maybe not even that long, hers will be way bigger and way more beautiful than mine. People say that I have a green thumb, but honestly I don't have a green thumb at all. But I do have a gardener's heart. I think I probably actually inherited that gardener's heart, because I have gardeners on both sides of my family, and my dad was a gardener, although he actually did a vegetable garden, very few flowers, because he did the vegetables for his family, and the flowers are just a luxury, not a necessity, which they still are today. But I love it, so I'm grateful that the Lord gave me this opportunity and this garden opportunity to enjoy it and to learn about plants. I noticed also, that sun's going to be in this one, but this little ornamental cabbage has grown so tall, and I'm thinking about clipping it off and seeing if it will reroot. And sometimes I know they do that, and it actually has a few, I don't know if I can get that, but it does have a few little shoots coming out this tall part of it here. It's got, if you can see those down there, and I'll probably take those off too. And actually I'm hoping that even more, you can tell there are more coming out there, and hopefully I'll have several to start. These will last through the winter a lot of times, and I'm hoping that I can do that and have those next year. There's just so much to be done out here. It's I don't know, it's mind-boggling, it's overwhelming, it's just one of those things, you know, where you be glad when it's done, but you don't want to do it. And I don't want to do it for more reasons than one, because I want to enjoy it longer as my main reason that I don't want to do it now. But here's another houseplant that will have to be taken in. I just take my banana plant and clip it down, way down to just the stalk, and put it inside, let it go dormant for the season, and then I bring it back out, which it doesn't get very tall, but it's very pretty. I'm never ready to let it go. It's just so hard, especially that first frost when things just disappear. But I'll have these pictures I'll have this little clip, hopefully to use on a YouTube post, and even if I don't, I'll have it for myself in my own record of the garden and its beauty for this season, and then we'll have hope of redoing it all again next year and see what it turns out. You never know. You just never really know what plants are going to do really well and what plants are going to kind of fizzle out on you. It's been this is one of my favorites too, and I actually saved a little piece of this in the window, and I will try to do that again with my coleus. Some of them I was able to keep, and others I had to purchase again. They just didn't make it outside when I put them back outside, or some of them didn't even make it to go back outside, but some of them did. Well, to me it's always worth it, even though it can be a lot of trouble just to have to redo the water, put fresh water in it every week, but I always want to do that so I can have a chance of having it beautiful and back in the garden again. Here's another thing I need to take in is this black caladium. I did take in a few of my caladiums yesterday, but there's several more, and I want to dig all those up. I still have to dig my dahlias, so there's a lot to do. This beautiful fern, which I'm calling beautiful because I've seen much bigger, pretty fuller ones, but this one is the biggest my particular fern has ever gotten, and I just love it. I'm so proud of it, and I hope when I take it in it will live. I'm bad with houseplants to let them die, and not that I try not to, for sure. I absolutely try not to, but these little the panicles that come out on this foxtail lily sometimes will just all turn brown. You can see one right down in there that's kind of brown already, and that was just from the heat of our summers, which I was talking about. We can actually go from the extreme heat that will just scorch everything to a cold that will just freeze everything. So this is a beautiful Esperanza plant. That's, of course, back there is the airplane, the variegated airplane plant. I do have several house plants that I definitely want to bring in. I don't want the cold to destroy. These are Rex begonias. This one is a silver Rex. The one beside it there is a Autumn Embers Rex begonia, and then right on down there is the Polymer Prince, that green, and there beside it is, and I can't remember the name of this begonia, but this one I saved, this one and the silver one I've saved through the winter, which I had a really hard time being able to save them through the winter. And not only myself, but my nephew that does really well with houseplants, I gave him my last Polymer Prince because I thought maybe he could save it, and I just couldn't. I had tried and couldn't, but he wasn't able to either. So we'll try. I'll try again. I have learned to be sure and let them dry out in between waterings. They'd like to be, I don't know, these plants that are so finicky that they want to be constantly moist, but they never want their feet to stay wet. So it's kind of a hard struggle to take care of a plant like that, but they're so worth it if I could ever figure it out, and I'm certainly going to try that. And then this bougainvillea, I'll probably bring it, I know I'll bring it in, put it somewhere and hope for it that it'll live. I'll definitely want a little clipping of this red coleus, even though they are usually pretty easy to find in the spring. So if I don't get one, keep one, I may still have this one. Now this one here is another story, this pretty green and maroon, and that looks so pretty when you put it with Creeping Jenny moneywort. it just really trailing down underneath it is one of my favorite ways to do this. But this one is a little bit hard to find. You can find it online or in catalogs, though I always try to save it in a glass in the window. I'm not really good. They say you can keep these just like a house plant, but I've never really been able to. And I did read somewhere that sometimes even the people that can do well with houseplants, that sometimes you'll lose all the leaves on it, but that it will you'll still be able to put it back out in the spring. So, and actually I've tried that too with no luck. So usually the only real thing I can do is either buy new ones or keep a start in a glass in the windowsill. But I'll definitely want to do some of that. Hopefully I'll keep an eye on the weather and be able to take care of some of that. And I had this little hibiscus on the post yesterday, but it hasn't folded up yet. You can see the one down below is beginning to, but this one is still looking good. But it'll fold up sometime today. They usually only last a day. It just depends on what time they open. If there'll still be some left the next day. I think they kind of had that 24-hour period, and so hopefully we'll get to enjoy this one today. That's the thing, that things just don't seem to last long enough. Things in life sometimes never seem to last long enough if it's a good thing. Those bad things sometimes seem to never end, but hopefully they too shall pass. And it is going to get extremely busy for me. The fall season is busy. It has nothing on spring cleanup. Oh my goodness, that spring cleanup, I don't know if we'll make it through it each year, but finally so far we have. But I will want to gather seeds. Look at these Magellan pink salmon zinnies. They are so beautiful. I want every one of these for seed and get those started in several places. Down here in this other one, I had a bunch of these pretty pink profusion zinnies mixed in with the Dusty Miller, but most of them have already gone. That I clipped them all back hoping that they would rebloom, and a few of them have, but most of them have, they just went ahead and dried out, so probably not get those. This is the pampas grass, and I've already said I would love to have the big thick plumes. I don't really know the difference in what makes the thick plume, or if it's just a different variety, but these I still like because the birds love them, and I love to watch the birds. Usually they're out here on them and eating that seed. I'll have to look up and see if this is a pipe vine. I need to see if I need to take some of that in a glass of water and try to save it, or if it's a perennial in our area. If it is, it will come back from the root, but chances are it's probably an annual. Although the Mexican flame vines are also annuals, and I did save some of those in a glass, and they rooted and they came up well. Let me find one here for you, but they actually came back from a little root that I had in the window, these right here, and did all this. So you can see that went all up this one, and I have not only this one but several. I think all the ones that I saved lived, and I put them in the garden and they still live. So I have them in several spots, not only here in the front but also have them in the back. This is some of it right here on this little trellis, and there's some of the bloom. So now we came through the back gate, and there's so much to do like in the spring and then again in the fall when I need to take all this in. I just really need a gardening army to help me, but there's just me, so I'm going to have to get out of my nicer clothes and put on my garden grungies and just really get to work. I'll have to be practically evil Don't speak to me, I'm busy in a little bit. But that's the only way I can get it done, so that's exactly what I will do, and try to get all this done, try to save as much of it as I can, and then as hard as it is, I'll let it go, and then I will be glad that it's gone. I'll be glad that it's dormant, it's resting, I'm resting. There's a new hope for next summer, and it's just going to be, actually it'll be good. I actually do enjoy having that rest period. I know the garden does too. I wish I could have had more days to sit right here and just look out at the garden, take pictures, and dream about next year's garden. That would have been one of my choice things to do. Actually, I am hoping that we still have that time to do some of that. I would love to. I've enjoyed my little metal houses this year. The year before I had the little flexible houses, and they burst on me so easily. I had to get, I don't even know how many I had to get. Some of them, they just replaced them because they busted so quickly. This is a firethorn bush right here. This is a chocolate plant bush that I just am trying to get started right here. I don't know if it's going to have time to put its little roots down and be good to last all winter or not, but I'm going to try that. But anyway, as I was saying about my metal hose, I love it because it's as light as the Flex hose. I had no problem with it whatsoever all summer long. It lasted all summer. I do, however, right now have it, you can see this little place where it goes on. It's kind of pulled loose and it does leak there, so I'm kind of looking for another one for next year, but I think they may have put them all away, or I may be lucky enough to find some that are on sale. So I'm actually hoping to do that, but if I don't, we'll just see what happens next year. This is one of my favorite places to take pictures too. I like this little angel looking out over the garden, but she does happen to be in this rain tree, which is going. It causes rain tree bugs, red shoulder bugs. There's really nothing you can do but soap and water to knock them back, and that's all it does is knock them back. It doesn't get rid of them whatsoever. But this is a little bird bath planter. It has the little holes for drainage, and you just plant it up, and this is several years old, and I got it from Atwoods. I have not noticed any recently, or in several years really, but they had those for a couple of years at least, and I was lucky enough to get a couple of those, and I just love them. Actually, I think I have 3 of those. This is my other one on a pole that goes up here, and this is my little girl that's in it, sitting on her bench, and then all the flowers around her. And you can see, if you look back on the post that we put previously, that I'll put on later, if that makes any sense, but I'm going to end up starting right now at this period and then go back and show you how the garden began, and then bring it back up to this period in time. But you'll see those red shoulder bugs. Why I want to get rid of them is they're just totally everywhere. Anywhere near this tree. It's getting to be where they don't have to be near it. They're just hunting a hole to hide for the winter, and then they'll be right back out in the spring, which is something I really don't want any longer. never did really want them there, but I didn't realize what a problem they would be, and we kept trying to fight them off, and finally I decided to go online and look, and come to find out that's what I found out, that there really isn't an insecticide that they know of that will get rid of them. They just have to, I mean, you have to take the tree down or just fight them with soap and water, and that's not that good of a, it's not a solution. So I could literally do this all day, take pictures or just the little posts and pictures and a movie clip, but I don't have time for that. I'm certainly going to have to go in and get my grungies on, my garden grungies on, and I've got to get busy. I'll never get it done if I don't, and so to say, may never get it done anyway, but as the Bible says, we're snared by the words of our mouth. So I don't want to say that I won't get it done, because I'm going to say that with God's help I am going to get it done, at least every bit as much as I can of it. Look at that pretty little red zinnia up there. Never mind that it's gonna freeze before long. Hasn't frozen yet, so we're going on. There's so many examples of life in the garden, just so many. And I've certainly enjoyed this little house plant, and I hope to be able to save it through the winter too, some way, either clippings, or I'll try just saving the pot. And also it was wonderful to have, I found a monarch orange, monarch butterfly on this blue, and took that picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures, just really shines. This is a good little example of some of the things in the garden. Not that I have to take any of these in, which is even better. This is a chocolate plant. It blooms in the late summer and fall, all through the fall up until frost usually. And then right beside it there's a Lenten rose. It'll be the first thing to bloom in the spring, or one of the first things. It is the first thing in my garden to bloom. These are toad lilies. They're just a tiny, tiny little flower, but they're very pretty, I think. I really enjoy them. I'm going to try, I think, to get some of them started up under these trees. Otherwise it's just bare ground, and then also allows the seeds of every other tree and anywhere near it to grow under it, and I have to try to clean those out. I've got to dig up this elephant ear too. That one's going to be a problem, or not a problem, but that's going to be a job for sure. This is my calabachoa that I've always dreamed about. I've always dreamed about being able to sow these and let them get bigger and bigger and more beautiful and more bountiful blooms, and this one did that for me. I would hate to say how many calabachoas I bought and tried, and I'm just talking about this year, and I think this is the only one. I had a few others that made it through scraggly, but they did live. A little piece of them did live. This also, I hope I remember to bring this in. This is a flowering maple abutilon, and it's pink Victorian. These blooms, to me, they didn't really open up well, but even just a little dangly full bloom like that is pretty. I've enjoyed it. There's several of the flowering maple blooms though that are really wonderful. There's another zinnia that's really showing off in this fall weather, this cooler weather. They love it cool. I just wish we had weather that cooperated a little bit better, but you know, I'm just going to have to be happy with what Oklahoma gives me, because I do love Oklahoma. But maybe that's because that's all I've ever known, but that's okay, because I'm grateful to have been born in Oklahoma, and just, it's, you know, all you get, all the seasons. Some of them come a little bit sooner than you would like. I wish fall could be a little bit longer, but I love all the seasons, and I usually try to incorporate that into my garden and try to make it where I have something blooming each season. And then after I get everything in that I want to take in, I will also want to come out and cover some of these things. The plants, usually they just die back and come back from the root anyway, but a lot of the pots I'll want to cover for protection from the elements. And then also it does seem to give it a little protection for the plant. I did notice that some of my plants that I had covered came back quicker in the spring, so they just, I could tell they had been protected. You could tell the difference in the ones that had some protection and the ones that didn't. And oh, look at this. I did not know this was going to bloom. This is my foxglove. I planted at least 2, maybe more, and they didn't bloom. I thought, well, maybe they'll bloom next year. Let me get over here where I can get this, if I can at all. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. If I can get it where it won't be, I think I've got it blurry. Kind of let me get it back off a little bit and get it where you can see that. And I know they're supposed to be humongously tall, so there's another point that I do not have a green thumb. But I have a gardener's heart, and I have enjoyment of the garden. I totally do enjoy it. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to come out and see a plant that I didn't even know was in bloom and see that beautiful bloom on there. And this is another one I would like to take inside and save and be able to put back in the garden again next year. It's an angel's trumpet. I can't remember exactly the name of it. This one is purple. They have them in different colors too. At least I know they have a pinkish red one. And this is not cold hardy though, so it does have to be brought in, and then when you bring something in, the next thing is it has to live through the season. So we'll see how that works. I've also still got to dig my dahlias. I didn't dig them earlier because they don't bloom until late, and I thought, oh, I'd love to keep them and enjoy them a little bit longer. And one thing I definitely want to try to do is get me some stakes. I need to figure out some way to stake my dahlias where they'll be prettier and not just flopping down on the ground. I want some where they'll stand up and you can just see all these amazing blooms. The fall garden is probably, well, it's definitely the fullest when everything is the most lush. I always say it's the grand finale in the garden is fall. But you can look through the other seasons and the posts that I'm going to put on showing all the seasons, and you'll see that each season has its own little glory, its own little show. But like this heliotrope right here, it didn't do hardly anything until late. After the cooler weather started coming on, it really went ahead and started making its showing. Luckily, I did go ahead and divide a few things and move several things around in the garden this fall, which is a wonderful time to do that. We can see where something is needed, and it has time to get its roots in, and then next spring it's ready to go. So that's a wonderful time for planting like that. I don't plant a lot in the fall. I just don't seem to have that much luck with it in the fall, but to transplant is when I really do a lot of transplanting, is the fall. In the spring, for me, I'm so busy I don't have time to transplant things that are already established. I'm ready to start new plants that need to get established, but in the fall, you know, it's just a wonderful time for doing that. Not that I get it all done. I can see this little daylily right here probably needed to be divided, but maybe I'll get to that later, and maybe I'll wait till another year to do it. I don't know if I got this one in today. I know I've got it in previous posts, but this is totally a favorite. I just cannot even believe the color on this little trailing purple splash pepper. It has white and purple and black and it's just all the colors you would not expect foliage to be, and it's just so pretty. I planted, I think, 30 of these, and I only got this one, and actually I saw another one when I was clearing it out, but it was so tiny it'll never be able to reach where it'll make peppers, which I don't really care about the peppers so much, but they are pretty, and I do care about the peppers and the fact that that's where the seed is for next year. So hopefully I'll get lots of peppers next year. I don't know why so many of them did not bloom, but or did not go ahead and sprout and come up and make little peppers. But at least I'm grateful this one did. This is another hibiscus. I love the hibiscus, both the hardy hibiscus that you don't have to bring in and it comes back from root every year and makes a humongous bloom as big as your face, and this tiny little bloom, but look at that bloom. It's just such a bright, pretty bloom, and it has this pendulous, the stamen comes down like a pendulum on it, and it's a variegated color, which right now it looks more green than variegated, but you can tell it has a little, and right there in the center you can tell even more that it is a pretty variegated hibiscus. I'll take that inside. This one I took inside last year and brought it out, and it looked good this year. So that's what I wish for all of my hibiscus, but that doesn't happen. It does not happen for me. I have a hard time keeping houseplants alive. Again, you're snared by the words of your mouth. I have to keep reminding myself, but I am going to have to add that I keep trying, and I am getting better. Just called me to tell me something, so you may have heard him. But I wanted to get back to this just for a moment. I do very much need to go ahead and get in and get busy. I hate to I hate to leave this part because I enjoy it so, but I know the other part has to be done, and I've got to get busy doing it to be able to get any of it done in time for the frosts to come and everything to be taken care of and safely in its little nook inside for the winter season. But this is important to me too, though, just because, like I said, I want to have a record of it. I want to have a record of it for myself, and I want to have a record of it to show you on the garden post, because I feel like for some reason that the Lord has something in mind with this, more than just what I know He has in mind for it. And if not, then I'll just enjoy it and do what I can with it, even though there are times definitely when it's not a joy. You know, you can make anything, any play, any experience work when you overdo, and then just sometimes it's just not that you're overdoing, it's just the seasons are stressing you out. I almost didn't make it through those summer months. Those summer months were just very hard, not only on me, they were hard on the garden itself and so many things, but it's just a constantly changing. I read somewhere that the constantly changing garden, and that is absolutely true, because it just continuously changes. Sometimes they're subtle changes, and sometimes they're just drastic changes. So I know one's coming, one of those drastic changes is coming, but until then we're going to hold on to the beauty of it and all the joy and hope that the garden brings. But some of the garden, this is the last it'll ever be like this. It just, even though it'll come back, it'll never be quite the same. Now this is a knockout rose, just that one, or there's a few little roses left on it, and it'll be totally covered in the spring. It'll be gorgeous. And but this little, it will come back, of course, and this one will be totally different every year it is. And even this one has changed this year. I put a Marguerite daisy, yellow daisy in there, which was beautiful, but it did not live through our hot summers. I thought it would, but it didn't. So I had to replace it with, and I used this pretty red coleus here, and that's why it's kind of small. It's just now kind of coming into its own well, but it'll be gone before long. So that's just another reason to take pictures or little movie clips of the garden, because you want to remember how it was. Sometimes you'll try to make it like that again, to repeat that what you had that you really liked, and sometimes that works, but lots of times you have to be prepared to know that some of the things you really thought would work wonderfully just don't, for some reason or another. It may be weather elements, or it may be insects, or there's just so many things that can happen in the garden. But just enjoy, and don't be afraid. I actually read that in a magazine one time, that don't be afraid to pull that stuff out of there when it dies and put something else in its place. So, and I've learned that if you want to keep your garden looking full and lush the whole season, that's what you need to do. Of course, in one season, what you need to do is take about 6 bags of stuff out of it when it dies in the summertime, which I have done that. I know there's stuff that needs to be taken out again, but most of the stuff that the summer just really made look terrible, I did take all of that out, and it's looking good. It's looking like I could just sit out here and enjoy it for, like I say, another month and a half at least before it takes it all away. But we'll see how that will be, because it may not be at all. But isn't that pretty? These tiny little butterflies have 3D wings. We're still getting the fall garden ready to become the winter garden, which is happening much faster than I wanted it to. But I have had a helper. My husband's been helping me some. He dug the dahlias for me yesterday. It's so hard to see the dahlias go, but we had to take them in and get the rhizomes ready to go into storage for the winter. So I'm glad we got that job done, and it was it was a dirty job. It always is. This is how we looked by the end of the day, like these shoes do. Well, if things look a little bare, it's because I took a bunch of things in. Like, see, there's something sitting on this, and right back here. But I took, well, no, I did not take anything in. I have to change that too. I put a lot of these things in different pots or set them out because I want to be sure and take them in, because we do have a chance of a frost. I'm still going to hope we don't get that frost yet. I'm not ready for, oh, look at this beautiful white impatiens this morning. Isn't that gorgeous? But what I wanted to show you was, oh look, there's another hibiscus going to bloom. I would love to get to see it. I love seeing all the pretty blooms. I have a couple that hadn't bloomed at all this year, and I wanted to see those. But this is some of what I did. If you'll remember, this datura was in the back, and now it's in its own little pot ready to go inside. I've got to take all this stuff inside, and my house is small, so I'm going to have to stack them up on top of each other to get them all in. But I want all the hibiscus in. Look at this. This is my begonia that I took from over on the other side and put it where I can reach it easily and get it in. That is that polymer prints. That, oh, I just love this thing, and I hope and pray that I'll be able to get it back inside, and I mean get it back outside afterward, because I have a hard time with houseplants. But I'm hoping to save it. And then this is one I have saved at least one winter, I think 2, so I'm hoping to do that one again also. I did get one of my spikes. I think I'm going to leave the big one that's in the, well, I'll just go ahead and show you, that's right out here, this one right here. I think I'm going to leave that one. I got up on a little stepping stool and looked in there, and it's just going to be quite a chore to get that out, and then a lot of room to store it inside. So I think I'll probably let that one go. Hate to, but that's the way it is. But and then this, of course, is the crown of thorns. Isn't that beautiful? And it does have thorns on it, but it's such a pretty little plant. This is that pretty flowering maple, a butylon. Isn't that pretty? It's already kind of droopy, already gone into some transplant shock, but I'm hoping to get that, save it, and get it back into. There's another autumn embers. I think I need to redo that just a bit and get it up where its stem is not so much in the ground, because I'm afraid that will cause it to have stem rot. And then right over here is another little begonia I thought had died, and I gave up on it, so I planted other things in there, and it's coming back, so I had to of course take that one in too. This is a little ponytail plant. So all these house plants, and then I have some more up here closer to the porch, and then there are still several things that I need to bring in that are in pots, like my banana tree right there, and I'm sure I probably missed some. I still haven't found out if this pipe vine is a annual or if it's hardy in my area, and I definitely would like to find that out so I can make arrangements for it. At least I know I can't bring that whole thing inside, but maybe I can at least take a few clippings and see if they will root and save them that way. Here's another pot that'll need to go in. It doesn't look very good right now, but there are bulbs in that pot, and they are calla lilies, and I think maybe a tuberose. I can't really remember for sure. Here's another little pot I will want inside. It has some ivy. This is one of the ivies growing out of that, and then of course the pretty variegated Swedish ivy right there. Oh, I hate to see all of this go. It's so hard to think about it going to be all gone, but like I've already said, it's time to rest. It is time to rest, and I'm very, very ready to get to rest. I just hate to see all this go. It would just be so wonderful if you could rest and this would still be out here and you could just come right back and start right where it was, but that's not the way it is. So this little one right here is already sleeping. So up here is, and I'll want to get one of these Mexican flame vine, just some foliage to take inside. And so yes, I want this one is my bougainvillea. That's my airplane plant. You can see the little airplane coming out from it. There's a couple there or more. I think there's actually more than that. But and then this, of course, is the foxtail lily, foxtail fern. I'm sorry, not lily, but fern. Isn't that pretty? And this is my beautiful Esperanza. It has yellow. I had one last year that had orange, and I brought it in, and of course it didn't make it. I tried it back out, but just even the root, it didn't come back from the root. This pretty little burgundy spike thing here is going to my sister Rosie's house, and I put her some of that other house plant, and I'm not sure the name of it, in there, but they're just little starts, so I don't know if they will make it, but I hope they will for her. I think those will be pretty in there. They actually even have a pink tinge to them at some point, or they're supposed to. Mine has not done that yet, but I still think it will. I don't know the name of this little plant right here, but it was just almost dead when I brought it out, because that's what my houseplants do. But look at it. It's just so big and beautiful, and I love those colors, that deep dark green highlighted with purple, and that's so pretty. And then this one right beside it here that's trailing down there is a dew plant. Has little pink blooms on it. I put a little bit of that in my sister's pot too, and most likely hers will go ahead and grow and become about 6 times as big as this one right here, whereas mine may or may not. I'm going to say it will, because I want to see it do it, so I'm going to hope that it will. She was wanting this too, which is certainly that would be something that I would give her. I told her she could take it right then, because I cannot do these inside. I've tried, and it's just not something I can do. But I've also read that other people have trouble keeping those through the winter inside too, but they can at least keep the root alive, and I've tried that and can't do that either, so I'm going to give that to her. And let's see, this little one right here that's on this tiny little trellis is a bleeding heart plant, and it's a beauty too when it blooms. Now I think that might be all that I have right out here, and of course the bulbs that we dug up yesterday. Actually rhizomes, the dahlia rhizomes that we dug yesterday, that I need to get in today. And I just have those sitting out here in my garage, or my carport. I don't actually have an open carport, not a closed-in garage, which would be a help. But I have these ready. I've actually been, some of my dahlia bulbs just totally dried out one year, and you could just take hold of them and go like this and they'd just crunch up and be dust. There's nothing there. But so I've been putting a little bit of water. This one's just, I've got to fill it up, but I've been putting that in there and just letting it evaporate in there, because you don't want them to be wet. They would rot. But they need some form of where it can like evaporate and be in the air, that type of moisture. This is some of the caladiums that I dug up, and I've got to go ahead and clip those off and get those put away for the winter. And I just put them in a little brown bag or a little paper sack, some type of paper, because they do need to breathe. And then these are some of the caladiums that I got ready to go inside, and these of course are the elephant ears. There's that great big one I told you was really going to be a job. It wasn't that hard of a job to get it up. I did have to use the big shovel, but I mean it was not a real problem. But and these others, actually some of these others were harder to get up out of the ground. But I've got those all in and ready to go, and I guess I'm ready. I guess as ready as you can be to let it all go. And I was actually dreading taking all that in, because I thought the garden would look kind of bare with so much of it gone, but it actually still looks very good. So I'm still hoping that we do have some more beautiful weather after our little frost. If we should get one, I would be fine with it if we did not get a frost, but I know it's coming either way. And I did see geese going over yesterday, so you know it's going to come. It's going to be here before we're ready anyway, so might as well try to get some of it ready, because there's no way you can do it all the day of. Plus it's cool right now, but it's a pleasant cool, maybe sweater weather, but it's still pleasant. So oh, there's my little bear. Okay, evening is coming on, and this morning when I left you, my batteries needed to be recharged on the camera. So I was mentioning that this is where my trumpet vine used to be, and you can still see that pretty gnarled stem, twisted stem all around there. I think I'm gonna hate saying goodbye to it as much as to the pretty orange trumpets and the bees and hummingbirds that it brought. It's certainly not that I don't love this plant, but it is invasive. It is a struggle to constantly be taking out the ones that start up that you don't want everywhere, and it puts down plants from the root comes up, and then it puts down seeds, and it's just too invasive. So I'm going to get rid of this one and try to get something that's a little more easier to keep and hopefully be just as beautiful. I'll see what I want to put on there. But it has been an extremely busy day in the garden today. We are still getting threats of a frost coming in Sunday, and so I have a feeling that most or all of this will be gone. There probably will still be a little bit of the perennials left that maybe give us some pretty fall color, like these pretty mums back here that I'm not getting in focus for you, but they're back there. And I hate to lose it, but like I've already mentioned, it's time for a rest, that's for sure. I surely feel it today after all that I brought in. I brought in my hibiscus. I clipped back some of my foliage plants that I want to take to root in, but most of those are still to be done tomorrow. But I dug up my geraniums. I'm going to try to save those. I put different things, so many different things in little pots to bring inside the non-hardy things, and just getting ready to let it all go, but seeing how much of it I can save too, because I want to save everything I can, either by seed, root, the plant itself brought in, whatever I can do to have it back in the garden next year. And we'll see what kind of a garden we get next year. Hopefully it'll be as beautiful as it was this year. It's so hard to let it go and start all over again, but also, like I mentioned before, each little season, each time in the garden has its own reward. From the time when it'll be dry and you come out here and then find little bits of green poking up and then little bits of bright colored blooms on there. And looks like I need to put my lid back on my bird feeder there, but we'll be enjoying the garden, enjoying the pictures of the garden, and just all of it that we can. And hopefully we'll still have some pretty fall weather, but I know that a lot of these annuals will definitely be gone because of the frost.